These infamous historical figures thought quite highly of themselves. Welcome to Unspoken Minutes, and today we're looking at historical figures with narcissistic traits that have had the worst effects on society. Our countdown of the worst narcissists to have ever lived includes Richard Nixon, Alexander the Great, Adolf Hitler, and more. Richard Nixon. He unintentionally offered the world a front row seat into his mind. Nixon maintained a public facade, but the recordings he made showed a different side to him. He was determined to win by any means necessary. His covert approval of a bombing campaign in Vietnam and an invasion of Cambodia, which resulted in the murder of thousands of civilians, serve as proof of this. He also kept his loved ones at a distance. Those who knew him well said they didn't call him by his first name. Additionally, he had symptoms of paranoia toward the media, particularly as the Watergate scandal deepened. He refused to acknowledge any wrongdoing and instead concentrated on his successes, even after he was discovered to have lied and had to resign. Saddam Hussein. A lack of empathy for others and an obsession with power are regarded as the main indicators of grandiose narcissism. Although those can be used to a variety of autocrats, Saddam Hussein used them from the beginning of his political career. He executed around 20 men who he believed to be his opponents in order to start his regime's purge of the Ba'ath Party. That finally got to the point where he killed everybody who dared to argue with him. This was not the end of his need for total control. He is suspected of being the reason behind the disappearance of hundreds of thousands of his own compatriots, in addition to starting the Gulf War and trying to exterminate the Kurdish population. His persistent misuse of authority has resulted in one of the greatest displays of blatant arrogance in a modern leader. Caligula. Being very self-centered is not a modern concept. Numerous historical people have been hypothesized to have suffered from the personality disorder. The greatest example is none other than Caligula, the Roman emperor, who supposedly had such an exaggerated sense of self that he intended to build a statue of himself as Zeus. Writings by persons who were close to him claim that he ruled in a ruthless and frequently violent manner, even driving some of his closest associates to commit suicide. There are many who assert that he was drawn to grandiose displays of spectacle, such as horse-human fights. His remains provide evidence that these symptoms have been present in humans for millennia, even if it is impossible to diagnose him from them. Benito Mussolini. For some, signs of their self-obsession date back to their early years. The notorious Italian prime minister first shown violent inclinations by hurting his fellow students. His bad behavior only got worse from there. In his lectures to his people, he exuded confidence, which made it simple to influence them to follow him. Due to his natural desire for mass domination, he attacked multiple nations and contributed to the rise of fascism, one of the most pernicious philosophies to ever gain traction. It also led to the brutal police state that he utilized to oppress his own people and permanently muzzle his critics. His haughtiness set off a chain reaction that continues to affect society today. Jim Jones. It takes a certain kind of self-imposed superiority, mainly present in narcissists, to be a cult spokesperson. A number of people met the criteria, but Jim Jones, the man responsible for the People's Temple, was among the most notorious. Faithful to God, he inspired his followers with great zeal. He put on a front of being a kind and nice man, but there was a darker side to him. He told absurd tales to get praise, including claims to have healing abilities. When doubts surfaced, his actual character became apparent. He rushed his remaining followers off to Guyana, using promises of a happy afterlife to continue taking advantage of them, rather than owning up to his mistakes. He eventually went into a tailspin that claimed the lives of nearly 900 individuals, including himself. Alexander the Great. Some historical figures are defined by specific traits. For certain individuals, their entire lives can be seen as a relentless pursuit of power. Alexander the Great, a renowned commander, exemplifies this ambition. From a young age, he exhibited a drive to surpass his father, and possessed a blend of strategic calculation and impulsive decision-making. These characteristics propelled him to unparalleled triumphs on the battlefield, allowing him to establish a vast empire before turning 30. His magnetic personality contributed to his success, shaping him into both an effective ruler and a ruthless conqueror. However, his continuous conquests exacerbated his narcissistic tendencies, culminating in his later years marked by megalomaniacal delusions, including claims of divine status. Joseph Stalin. Dictators often openly pursue power, but those who operate with subtlety can be even more menacing. Joseph Stalin, frequently underestimated as mediocre and unremarkable, proved to be anything but. He adeptly maneuvered his way to leadership within the Bolshevik movement through deception and manipulation. Yet, beneath his soft-spoken facade lay a ruthless tyrant. His cruelty knew no bounds, escalating as his influence grew. During his reign, millions perished, many in the brutal gulags he oversaw. His paranoia intensified in later years, leading to the imprisonment and persecution of innocent individuals, including doctors simply for suggesting he consider retirement. Henry VIII. Even those born into royalty can succumb to excessive self-flagellation. Henry VIII wielded his immense power for personal gain numerous times, notably orchestrating the separation of the Church of England from the broader Catholic denomination over a mere disagreement. He introduced a novel theory asserting that monarchs, including himself, were divinely appointed and thus beyond external control. Yet, his personal life was equally tumultuous. He lavished attention on his wives only to abruptly discard them once his affections waned. His reactions to rumors of their alleged infidelity were extreme, resulting in the execution of 2 of his wives. Napoleon Bonaparte. Few figures have an entire ego complex named after them, but Napoleon Bonaparte is one such exception. Rising swiftly through the ranks of the French Revolution, he gained renown for his battlefield triumphs. However, his ambition soon drove him to crave more power. He orchestrated a coup and declared himself Emperor of the French, revealing a less charming side prone to fits of rage when faced with setbacks. To sustain his reign, he waged numerous wars, leading to 2 exiles and a tarnished reputation that endured for centuries. His legacy includes the infamous Napoleon complex, shaping perceptions of leaders driven by a desire for power and stature. Adolf Hitler. He stands as the quintessential example of the disastrous consequences when egotism and unchecked power converge. Adolf Hitler exhibited traits consistent with certain personality disorders, driven by unyielding fanaticism towards those he despised. He portrayed himself as infallible, fostering perpetual infighting among his subordinates to preserve his unquestioned authority. His pursuit of total domination led to countless atrocities, as he lied about and demonized millions for personal gain. This made him one of history's most destructive and unequivocally malevolent leaders, responsible for the deaths of millions. Which narcissist do you think has done the most damage? Let us know in the comments below.